Welcome to Module 7. In this module, we're going to focus on differentiated instruction to support the needs of our learners in our classrooms. So through this module, you're going to be exploring through different resources. You'll learn more about different ways we can approach differentiation so that we are able to best meet the learning needs of the learners that we serve. So the essential questions that we're going to focus on for this module include mainly, why do we differentiate instruction for our students? That's the biggest takeaway that you should have when you finish this module. You'll also learn about the role that technology can play, because one of the tasks that you'll do for your assignment is to look at how technology, certainly we've ramped up technology use, mainly because of COVID here the last 2 years in our classrooms. So thinking about how that technology can be applied to differentiate instruction for your learners. You're going to learn and have an opportunity to look at some different resources for how teachers can plan for differentiation, and that's also part of your assignment for this module. And also explore different ways through our discussion and some of the learning resources to investigate what true differentiation can look like. Differentiated instruction is one of my passions. I don't know that I've shared a lot, but part of my learning journey, my PhD, was in special education, and mainly looking at the application of technology to leverage the playing field and fill gaps for learners that have varied needs and abilities. So differentiation and trying to figure out the needs and meet those needs for each of our learners is part of the passion that I find in the work. In the module, you're going to encounter a number of different resources and opportunity to look at work and differentiation globally. You have some readings that are provided for you. You're going to have a differentiated brochure. You're going to have a component to read about how to differentiate an instruction in mixed ability groups, and then another resource to look at instruction and instructional planning. You'll have opportunity to explore universal design for learning resources, and that's kind of a hot topic, learning for all. And a couple of things that are kind of interesting in the video resources, they're short clips, but some really great, powerful pieces to learn from. One of the videos talks about kind of who I would consider the founding mother of differentiated instruction, and that's Carol Ann Tomlinson, who did a lot of work as I was coming through my education early years in working and developing and researching and providing a lot of scholarly articles, the impacts of specifically differentiation in curriculum and instruction. So one of the things that's always been a key takeaway when I plan for learners is to think about differentiation in 3 different columns. You can always think about differentiation by how learners go through the process of learning, how they learn something, how you plan the instruction for them, so that would be all process. You can think about differentiating in the product of learning, and that kind of leads you to how you might assess, and you could be unique and provide different assessment opportunities for determining how a learner is mastering content. So that's the product component. And then there's always the content. You know, maybe you have schools that you're working with that are using the professional learning communities model, or PLCs. And part of the questions and the tenets of a professional learning community is to look at, you know, what do learners need to learn, and ask the question of, are they learning it? And how do we know if they're learning the content? What do we do if they're not learning the content, and what do we do if they've already learned the content and they're ready to move on for something? So that's where that content differentiation can come into play. Maybe you're already investigating a little bit of that if you have active professional learning communities in your schools. So one of the videos, it's a really short nugget, maybe about 2 or 3 minutes, but it does give you a nice bite-sized overview about differentiation and references Tomlinson's work. When we're doing differentiation well, it should be seamless in our instruction. It should lend itself with some flexibility, so we don't just set up our differentiation plan for the year and roll with it, right? It's always based on the needs, the interests of our learners. And then also, this all kind of, I referenced it, builds on previous modules, because part of what we're doing in understanding the learner, the whole focus of this course, is getting to know what our learners need to be successful, what type of supports they need to be successful. And planning for instruction through differentiation is just another way to think about understanding our learner. If you don't take the time to understand who the learner might be and understand what they need, in terms of their interests, their needs, and also their learning preferences, or we talked a little bit about multiple intelligences and different learning styles, then it's really difficult to understand how to successfully plan for differentiation. I also don't want you to feel overwhelmed by thinking about differentiation, right? In the first couple of years of our journey in education, we do the best that we can, and that's taking one step at a time. So it would be a daunting task to think about differentiating every possible lesson for every learner, and that's not what we're asking you to consider at this point, but you can start to think about, maybe there are small groups of students that differentiation would benefit. Maybe students can be paired, but I want you to be flexible in your thinking and not thinking that you have to have a separate individual plan for every learner. I also want to touch a little bit, and part of my comments in that last statement relate to, I've been watching the videos from the discussion groups for Module 6 as those are being turned in. And I am so thankful that we took the time to get back into a video setting with small groups, because so far each group has indicated how grateful they were. We all dread having to schedule those times because we're busy, and I get that, and it's hard this year. Last year we thought was difficult, and we're really focused on just keeping kids with us, keeping them engaged when many of us were not back in person learning for a good part of the year. But this year's, it's hard, and I'm hearing that from the teachers that I work with, and I think you're all experiencing that. So I appreciate the optimism that some of you are bringing to the discussions. I appreciate the honesty and the reality of the challenges, and hopefully this discussion that we just went through in Module 6 and talking about classroom management, it gave you an opportunity to connect with others and maybe have some validation that you're not alone in the journey right now. And that you do have some of the tools that you need to do good work for kids, but also acknowledge that our kids are telling us that they need different things. One of you articulated one of my favorite statements coming from a special ed component is behavior is how students communicate to us. So when we're seeing lots of behaviors that we typically wouldn't encounter, and maybe our point of reference isn't a great one because we haven't spent a lot of years in the classroom to know what this looked like before COVID, my advice to you is just to hang in there. So when you approach this assignment, I want you to think about one bite that you can take. You're going to have an opportunity to do some discussion. I'm going to do a quick poll after reading through or after watching some of the videos in Module 6 and seeing, the feedback on just having that connected time with folks. I think I'm going to do a poll for the group and give you a little bit of time to give me feedback on whether you want to do another video meet and just post the link, or whether you want to do the discussion format to just share resources across the whole class. I'm okay either way, but I think I will put a poll out, so watch for that link in a class announcement here coming soon, and then I'll adjust the module as soon as I hear back. I'll put a timeline on when to respond. For the assignment, you're going to use the T2T lesson planning template, again, the beloved template that you all have just grown so connected to. I know that it's near and dear to your heart. I know that it's robust, and so not very many of you use that on a day-to-day basis, but again, there's a purpose for it. So you're going to use that, and you're going to detail a lesson that you will teach, something coming up in your curriculum, and you've got a little bit of a gift of time because this next module isn't due until we get well into December, so you have a little bit of a break around the Thanksgiving holiday. But you're going to write up the lesson plan. You're going to teach the lesson with your differentiated strategy that you select for yourself, and then you're going to write a reflection. So if you look at the end of the document that's linked in the assignment, it is the T2T lesson planning template for the university, and then at the very end, if you scroll to the bottom, there's just a place for you to write your reflection. So after you've taught the lesson, I really want you to think about, how did it go? How did learners respond? What were the challenges? I'm going to give you the glows and the grows. What were the things that were really successful? And those are your glowing pieces. And what do you need to grow in terms of the challenges to overcome if you were to do it better? What could you do differently? So that's it for Module 7. It's kind of bittersweet. I really enjoyed working with this cohort. You guys have been phenomenal. And again, I really did enjoy it. I feel like I connect to you when I get to watch the videos and see your discussion and what you all share and bring from your personal experiences in your schools. So with that, I'm going to sign off. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to get in touch with me. And again, I appreciate your work and your engagement in the class. As always, if life happens, some of you are dealing with some rough spots in schools and changes in personnel, and you're having to pick up some extra, I understand. And so I've had a number of folks that have gotten extensions pretty much on a weekly basis through this semester, and I'm able to keep up with it. So just keep communicating with me. Don't mind me if I check in if an assignment doesn't get turned in, and know that I'm also monitoring multiple email accounts, so sometimes I do miss a message. So grace for everybody. And again, have a great couple of weeks. Have a great Thanksgiving holiday, however that works for you and your family, and take the time off to really recharge your batteries, because I think we all could use it. So take care, and let me know if you have any questions.